if we were to take it right down to sort of grassroots and how that impacts our work every day and make it more tangible, climate change obviously is all three: a risk, uncertainty, and a trend, right? And physical impacts to us are a risk, right? And I'm going to be very technical here. The potential outcomes and their likelihood, is something that can be known. And this is based on science. And this is also based on the work that we have been doing with Woodwell and Wellington on getting better information, better data, so that we can and better figure out what the potential damages are and what their likelihood is. When we think about transition risk, that's, I think, is an uncertainty, to some extent, or at least it was in the past, because it's really behavioral, right? It really depends on how society, how governments and companies and consumers act in reaction to climate change.
The best source and the most accurate are the insurers. If you go and ask them for a price, they need to price them properly. Otherwise, they could go bankrupt overnight. Certain parts of Florida and other parts of you can't get home insurance because the pricing and stats are against them.
Much like real estate, we found in climate that location is really the key. And if you start with location, that brings you closer to the company level and further away from macro, top down. This one risk factor solves all. Every company's different, every location is different, even in the same country, like in the US and China and India, you have massive different climates across the same country. So company level has been much more insightful for us than macro level. I would say if you were trying to think about risk factors, they should revolve around location and duration. Location and duration. Again, fixed locations have the most risk and the longest maturity has the most risk. So coming up with new risk factors around those two would make sense.
It has to be toned from the top. Our own organization that they say, look, you have to look at climate risk. This is the subject going forward, and it will impact investment returns. Having that armed with that kind of mission, I think we go out and assess our managers and see whether they take climate risk seriously in their portfolio. Their boards, their management, are they singing the same tune?
One of the major sins of the financial markets is it's really a pattern recognition industry. If you think about factors like quality, momentum, value, we've got 100 years of history and everyone imagines that history will persist over some time. We've studied these factors. They have extra premium attached to them. There's no such thing for climate change. We don't have the history in terms of what the future is going to be. We don't have enough years of this new change. We have about 20 plus years of this changing climate, not 100. And the next 50 to 100 are going to be far different than the last 100. So I think classically, Wall Street quants will be trying to sort through data and come up with some relationship, but it's going to be hugely spurious because there's not enough climate data. So in exchange for that, what I recommend is that we use forward-looking projections essentially for the first time in our industry without a back history to prove them. The back history of proof is that the science has been accurate. It's not, and the bulk of the work that we've been doing with Woodwell is on the physical risks, so almost unrelated in a way from the carbon price. The carbon price is needed to affect the transition to a lower carbon economy. But the risks of heat, drought, wildfire, water scarcity, flood, hurricane, air quality, sea level rise all still exist with or without carbon price. These things, again, are baked in the cake, unfortunately, because of the prior emissions.
You have, 120 countries, over 1,000 companies and investors committing to net zero by 2050. Most of them with, 50% reduction targets by 2030. I mean, I think we can get the emission reduction targets of 50%. The last piece is going to take the investment dollars in the technology and infrastructure that is needed to really make this mainstream. I think the adaptation is hugely important. I mean, there's a little bit of, we feel like it's a bit of a defeatist, like, oh, we're doomed. Like we have to start protecting ourselves. But, we have to get over that and realize that that's a big area.